Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the Riverfront, episode number 447 of the world's most dangerous podcast. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me again this week, your friend and mine, Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
Whew, man, feeling good. Feeling a little bit dangerous. I don't know if it's the podcast influencing me or if I'm influencing the podcast, but we're going to run with it. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, a little from column A, a little from column B. You're the most dangerous person I know. But before we go much further, let me just go ahead and say, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. If you're listening to the audio version, why not subscribe? Have this gorgeous voice delivered right into your ears, onto your phone every single week, everywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And then just quickly, this show would not be possible without the support of our Patreon family. Thank you all. Patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. Nate, the season's over. What's that all about? And I guess let me go ahead and say before I hand it over to you, I actually had more fun this week watching the Reds than I have probably all season long. In kind of it got fun in a really weird way, to paraphrase David Bell.
It did. We'll get into some of that here in a little bit. I am sure of it, but it was kind of interesting the way that our little community, and we're talking about our Patreon family, company, man. It's patreon.com/RiverfrontCity, where you too can join part of the Riverfront. Everybody was a lot more active over the last, couple weeks than they really have been for the last couple months, since it's been such a slog of a season. So, yeah, it stinks that baseball is over for the Reds. It's been over from a competitive standpoint for quite some time. We all know that, but not having that little bit of my routine to look forward to every morning, checking box scores, checking stats, that always sucks at the end of the year.
I'm still muted, and I am still muted. What's that all about? We've only done 447 episodes of these. I'm going to figure it out at some point. So we recorded this on Thursday, as we always do, and it's weird. There's no game. The last game was obviously yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit about what Nate was talking about, why this week ended up being a little bit of fun, and maybe in a strange way. But let's ultimately talk about the week that was. Now, the Reds played the Cubs 6 straight games last we saw them, and of course they proceeded to lose the first 3 in Chicago. So they come home to Cincinnati, and the race for 102, which of course is 102 losses, which would have been the highest number in the history of the franchise. And personally, more personally, here at the Riverfront, Tattoo Watch 2022. Now, we talked about that last week, and as happens, our faithful viewers, one James Urban is the one in this one who went back and actually found the genesis of Tattoo Watch 2022. So I'm going to play this. This clip came from episode number 423. It was back in May 6th. At the time, the Reds were 3-22. So here's how that conversation went. Okay, well, I'll say this. If the Reds lose 102 games to have the worst season in Reds history, I will crowdsource a tattoo for myself to commemorate it. You heard it here first. I hope no one's listening and no one remembers that.
People were listening and someone remembered.
Yes, and I was in real danger there for a while. Look, after they lost all 3 to the Cubs, so that was 99 losses, and it was on the horizon. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm really going to have to crowdsource a tattoo. And then, of course, the Reds proceed to win the game 1 at home in the final series here against the Cubs, and then won game 2. So now, and so we were having fun goofing around 102, and everybody was laughing about the tattoo, and it was funny. But then we had are the Reds going to lose 100 games? Now, I sort of felt guilty just because somehow I'm that 9-year-old that picked the Reds back then. I sort of felt guilty, but I was absolutely 100% cheering for the Reds to lose. No, I take that back. I wasn't cheering for the Reds to lose that last game to get to 100 losses. I was cheering for the Castellinis to be embarrassed by 100 losses, because it's only the second time in history the Reds have lost 100. So that number needed to be there to embarrass this ridiculous ownership. I hate it for some of the players who were trying as hard as they could, but of course they dropped the final game 15-2 and did get 100 losses. So Nate, tell me your relationship with Tattoo Watch 2022 and with ultimately 100 losses.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement that I didn't expect from a 100-loss team. I thought that maybe because we have such a good time on our Slack channel that the family would have been, they were, yeah, their contributions to what that tattoo might have been would have been thoughtful. You know, this is something that could be on your body for the rest of your life. They really latched on to the crowdsource thing. They were coming hard in the paint with some ideas that you would not have been proud to show your wife and kids. So, in that regard, I'm glad that 102 did not happen. It was weird. It was weird, kind of rooting for the team to lose. I reconciled it by wanting them to be better positioned for the #1 overall draft pick, increase those lottery odds. And B, I was hoping that if they lost, it would be because everybody played really, really well until Hunter Strickland blew it in the ninth. Because I don't care about that.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So 100 losses. I mean, that's a big deal, Nate. Only one other time in Reds history have they lost 100 games. And let's actually run through that history just a little bit. In fact, only 4 teams in Reds history have lost more than 96 games. And so that's with 100 losses, this year's team only topped by 1982 with 100 losses. Now, 20 seasons in which the Reds lost at least 90 games. There have been 20 seasons ever, 6 of those from the Castellini era. And if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw me hit the mute button and sneeze. Exciting times for hay fever here in Central Virginia.
It's important to note really quick that this is a 141-year history. This isn't an expansion team.
Exactly. Now, there is a caveat that we do need to mention, which is in 1962, the Major League season expanded to 162 games. So that's 61 seasons. Oh. Now I'm still muted. Goodness gracious, we just need to start over. We are like the Reds here. Nate, I'm giving it to you for a moment.
Yeah, we're limping to the finish line here. I don't know where you go with this. There's been a lot of dialogue on the Twitterverse this week about people rooting for lottery odds, people putting all their faith in the front office and ownership. And I sort of get that optimistic look, but there seems to have been a serious rally around sort of what we always have been preaching here, and that is the fans deserve better than this. The futility, specifically in the Castellini era, it's just been difficult. It's been hard from a fan perspective. It makes it difficult to tune in all the time and spend your dollars and raise your kids to go and be a part of this. It's not been fun. I hope, if nothing else, that the 100 triple-digit losses light some kind of fire in the Castellinis. I hope it embarrasses them. I hope the entire city sort of finds a way to let them know, hey, this stunk and it was not acceptable.
Yeah, I hope so. And I do want to revisit that in a moment, but let me just finish what I was trying to say before the allergies hit me. Teams play 162 games now. Before 1962, they only played 154 and then fewer in the past. So let's just look at that. So 61 seasons since it was they had expansion and they increased the schedule to 162 games. In 11 of those 61 seasons, the Reds have lost 90 or more games. 11 out of 61. So out of those 11, the Castellinis are responsible for 6 of those 11, 55%. I mean, it's embarrassing is what it is. And I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much on well, I do want to dwell on a little bit, but we don't need to, I guess, because we do want to get into where we are going forward. But it's a real question as to whether that triple-digit number will actually embarrass the Castellinis enough to do something. I don't know that it will. They did do something today. I think they fixed everything today, Nate. Everything is fixed now. The Reds announced they are firing 5 major league coaches. None of them are David Bell. They announced that David Bell, who did have another year on his contract, will be returning as manager of the Reds next year. First base, infield, and base running coach Delano DeShields. Advanced scouting coach Christian Perez. Bullpen coach Lee Tunnell. assistant coach Rolando Valles, and hitting coach Alan Zinter will not return in 2023. Nate, here are your options. A, does this fix the Reds' problems? Or B, is this rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic?
Unfortunately, it is obviously and clearly B. No surprise to anyone that David Bell did not get the boot. Who, he's a yes man. The ownership trusts him to go out and do that thing. He's going to do it. And who else wants that job right now? It's going to look a lot more appealing in 2024. But these don't move the needle at all. Sure, fire the hitting coach. They didn't hit well. I get it. But you're firing a bunch of people that the average fan would never heard of. And nothing's going to change. The team's not going to be any better or worse because of that. At least not enough to matter in the standings.
Yeah, but I guess my question is this. You're right. The average fan has never heard of any of those guys. Even sort of hardcore fans are probably only familiar with Zinter and Delano DeShields. I wonder, though, if this is obviously these guys are scapegoats. That is what it is. They're scapegoats.
They had to do something.
Right. And that's why I say rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Is it for the average fan who didn't know, maybe they're thinking, oh, well, now the Reds, this is not acceptable to the Reds. Look at them. They're already, not even 24 hours later, they're already making moves to fix this team. I don't know. I can't speak for the average fan who doesn't pay that much attention, but I wonder if there's some PR element that helps in finding a scapegoat. And it's something I noted last week, which is this team's lost 90 games in 5 of the last 7 full seasons, and yet no one has really lost their job. I guess Brian Price did, manager Brian Price. But no one in any position of authority has lost their job. No one in any position of authority still has lost their job. Just some coaches who may have been bad at their jobs. I don't know. But you can't say they're the reason the Reds lost 100 games. So until they actually do something about the people that are making the decisions, then it's just papering over the serious systemic problems within this organization. Now, that's not to say that the quote unquote future isn't bright. People say that. If you hear somebody saying that, okay, that's fine. The Reds are in a position where a legitimate organization that's well run could absolutely have a bright future. No question. If Theo Epstein were running the Reds without interference from owners, yes, the future would be bright. But when someone tells you the future is bright, I would submit that you cannot believe the future is bright here unless you have blind faith in the people making the decisions. And I would say that all the evidence is that the people making decisions are incapable of running a major league franchise. Every single piece of evidence, except for maybe at the trade deadline, they made a few decent trades, which they did. But I would suggest that we're going to be optimistic. Hope is what we trade in around here at the riverfront, because you have to hope. And as I've said in recent weeks, there is a path to a competitive team. But if someone tells you the future's bright, you got to say, well, is it really bright, or is it just because it's bright if we believe in the decision makers? So I got off on a little bit of a rant there, but it just that term blind faith to me is what you have to really believe that anything the Reds do this season is going to lead to something down the road, because what they've shown us is every decision they've made in the last 10 years has effectively resulted in a 100-loss team. So I don't know. Am I being dramatic?
I think you have reason. I mean, yeah, yes is the answer, but I think you have reason to be. We should get this out of the way now, because we don't want this to become the world's most negative episode, because that's how it kind of feels right now with 100 loss season. It's the second worst season by win-loss record, not percentage, but losses in team history. C. Trent Rosecrans over at The Athletic had a column out that said, the rebuild is real, and the only question is how long will it last? And that's what's on everybody's mind. There is not a lot of argument that Nick Krall did a good job at the deadline. And I get wanting to be optimistic. I really, really do. Life is short, and we probably already care too much about this darn team. But to say over and over that you believe that these guys, you believe in them, that they get faith in what they're doing, it simply boggles the mind. I mean, yeah, they executed at the deadline this year well. I think that's pretty easy to claim. But does that mean they will suddenly, and keep in mind that they've literally never, ever done this before, that they're just going to stay the course and soundly, successfully execute a multi-year vision and plan? I mean, I understand wanting to believe that they will, but if I were a betting man, and I kind of am on occasion, my money would go.
Right. And that's not that I'm not I'm very optimistic, about the future because the pieces are in place if they want to execute them. Now, do I believe they're going to? No. Do I hope they're going to? Yes. And that's why there's reason for me to keep tuning in to see, because it's not like there's nothing to build from here. Okay. Yeah. They tore it down in a ridiculous way. It's just ludicrous over the last 10 years, but okay. We can whine about that if we want. And I'm going to make fun of the win-her-loss team as much as I can because I think it's funny that Castellini's Reds lost 100 games. But there's a vision for the future that I'm excited to see what happens. And optimistic is probably not the right term. I'm optimistic in the sense that there is a reason for hope here, and there hasn't always been in Cincinnati. I don't trust the Reds to execute, but maybe they will, and that'd be great. And we'll be excited.
Maybe they will.
And
it's entirely possible that they will, and it's going to be great.
Well, that's what we hope. So anyway, yes, I think that's all right. Now let me see what there was. First of all, I guess I should say the Reds not only finished. You kind of touched on it briefly a moment ago, but the Reds finished in last place. Not only did they lose 100 games, they finished in last place because on the last day of the season they lost their 100th game, whereas the Pirates, who had already lost 100, won their final game. So the Pirates had the tiebreaker for last place essentially, and yet, despite the Reds having, and the tiebreaker was that they lost 12 out of 19 to the Pirates this year, which is just, come on, really. So you think, all right, well, the Reds get a higher draft pick, right? Well, not necessarily. Maybe. This year they're having a draft lottery. And so the Reds have some a certain percentage chance of getting the number one pick. The Pirates have a slightly better chance because the Pirates were deemed to be the number 3, worst team rather than the Reds, because the tiebreaker for the draft lottery was the results of the 2021 season, which is completely ridiculous. So I don't know. But anyway, the Reds still have a chance of getting a good draft pick. And yay, we'll get some high school guy that might be here in 7 years. Wahoo!
Hey, I will get excited about the first and only number 1 draft pick in Reds history.
That's true. That'd be great. All right, one last thing before we start getting into some real fun here. But I did want to go ahead and mention this because our buddy Woo the Reds has said a viewer mail question, but a viewer mail, I don't know, rant. I don't know what it is. But anyway, here's what Woo says. I keep hearing plenty of people wanting to give the Reds another pass on a failed season because of the prospects they received in return for the trades, which is, I don't give them a pass, obviously, but they did receive good prospects. Woo says, I think that glosses over that Reds ownership intentionally sabotaged the 2022 season before it even started. This set the stage for them to be, we have to trade all these players. We're smart to be doing this. Look how great we did, etc. talking points. The front office created the pretense to reach their desired outcome of shedding payroll and not retaining talent. We shouldn't be rewarding a bad faith effort because of, quote, the prospects. Additionally, why should anyone be praised for what they should have done if the situation arose early? The bar just seems so extremely low, and anytime it's cleared, it seems many feel the front office should be praised or given a pass. This leads into my second point. As crappy as the season was, the biggest takeaway is a significant number of ex-Reds who had no issues pointing out ownership wasn't interested in winning. This is how the players felt about their employer once freed from any possible retribution. To me, it's the biggest red flag amongst all the red flags we've seen. Every bit of that's true, as far as I'm concerned. You may disagree. Every bit of that is true. I think there's, in all the talk, this is sort of what I was getting to with the blind faith comment a moment ago. All the talk about, well, the Reds are set up to do well, and they're they got a haul at the deadline, and the future's bright. All of that just kind of accepts the premise that the Reds had to do this, and it's a completely faulty premise. First of all, last year, if the Reds had just fixed the bullpen from day one, or spent any money at all on the major league roster before opening day last year, that's a team that can potentially would have made the playoffs last year. They won 83 games. And now this is easy to say because some of the guys did not have as good a year this year, so I don't know if they were going to have done that. But going into a season with an 83 win team, this year, I think, 88 wins? qualified for the playoffs in the National League. All the Reds had to do was try to figure out how to get 5 more wins from that roster last year. Now, again, easier said than done. I know I'm simplifying it, but it was that close. And instead, they got rid of Tucker Barnhart and Wade Miley just for nothing. That was the signal last year, if you recall. That was the signal. And then they traded away everyone so that they could say, we don't have a choice but to trade Castillo at the deadline and to trade Tyler Miller. We have to. Well, you only have to because you gave up before the season started. And so I think it's a fair point that needs to be made that it's none of this had to happen. And so many Cincinnati fans have been, I call it Stockholm syndrome, have been just sort of gaslit and believing it has to be this way for the Reds. They can only win once every decade. And it does not have to be that way. The Castellanis, I'm telling you, made money this year. Worst attendance since 1984, worst ever in Great American Ballpark history. They made money this year. But here's my prediction. They're going to use – sorry, I'm on another rant here, Nate. It's one of those days.
Go with it.
They're going to use this lack of attendance, the worst since 1984, say that they can't invest in next year's team because they're going to tell us it will come out this. And I want someone to remind me of this prediction because when this prediction comes, I'm going to make James Irving get a crowdsourced tattoo. They're going to tell us, well, we didn't have attendance, so we can't. We lost money. They're going to say we lost money, and they did not lose money. There's no way they lost money. It's impossible. Now that being said, where I was trying to go before I got off on a rant was what you alluded to a moment ago. Okay, I don't like where we are, how we got here, but there's a path to being a competitive team. Maybe not next year. Okay, they've torn it down too much to be competitive in 2023, but 2024, yeah. Some of these young guys should, if they pan out, and I'm never counting on any prospect to pan out. And if you are, blind faith. That's all I'm telling you. Ask Jose Barrero and Nick Senzel how that worked out. But some of these big prospects, and I love me some Ellie De La Cruz and Noelly Marte. I love them. But if some of those guys do pan out, and Spencer Steers and the Encarnaciones and the whoever, Brandon Williamson, these guys. If some of those pan out, they'll be arriving no later than 2024. And the Reds are going to have so much financial flexibility that they could really improve the team for next year. Shoot for a garden variety average team even next year. They're going to be below average, but try to actually win games. That's a novel concept for the Reds. Try to win some games. And people will start buying in. And then 2024, you could be genuinely good. But if you don't do it then, you're going to be in trouble because you're starting to lose your window of Tyler Stevenson and Jonathan India and those guys. So anyway, that's why I still am hopeful because they could do it. They could do it. But anyway, go ahead, Nate. I'm sorry.
I don't know if there's anything more left to say. I did think it was interesting that in your article about how the rebuild might not take as long as we might fear, it was interesting that in your plan for what they need to do next year, you said they need to add a veteran pitcher and find a bridge the gap position player, outfielder.
Yeah.
I feel like they had a bunch of those on the team.
That's why I say they didn't have to be this way. Yeah, they did.
You also said, we can make next season like just like an 88 loss win season. I was like, oh man, we're judging seasons in losses now. Not even 80 wins. If everything breaks right next year, we can have 88 losses. Go Reds!
Dare to dream, baby. Dare to dream. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. I think it's hilarious that the Reds lost 100 games. I mean, if you're going to be a bad team, let's just not be a garden variety bad team. Let's go for it. And so they lost 100 games. I hope it embarrassed the Castellanis a little bit. But what we need to do now, Nate, before we get too much further, is you had a good idea. And I think it's, again, going back and revisiting something we've done in past shows. We decided we're going to see how our preseason predictions panned out. You want to do that?
Yeah, I do. And spoiler alert, we did not do very well.
we did not do it was not perfect. So maybe we shouldn't even revisit these because people are going to say, why are we listening to these guys? They don't know what they're talking about.
I think it's just it's proof that there is a time for optimism, even on this podcast. Like we were going into last season or this season with eyes wide open, thinking that this could be fun. So here's some proof. Well,
and listen, we're gonna be optimistic over the winter, and coming in next season will be the same way. I think there's a chance here. Yeah, you kind of squint and hope you can see that. We're always going to try to tell you the truth. If you want someone to just give you optimism, we're not your place, but we're going to try to tell you the truth. But also, um, we get caught up in it. We love this team. You know, we're fans first. We're not journalists. We're fans. So the I don't know what the term I'm looking for is, but the way we presented these preseason predictions were in must have been right around the Oscars, the Academy Awards,
Yeah,
because
it was right after the slap heard around the world.
Oh, Tommy Pham, or a different
the other one.
Oh yeah, that's right, Will Smith.
Correct.
Yeah, so we started out with who's going to be the best actor in a lead role, which I presume we meant best hitter. I think if I'm correct.
Yeah, best hitter, team MVP, however you want to take that.
Yeah, there we go. Right. Yeah. So well, let me say this: Bill Lack, the Podfather's with us. We tried to get him to come on today to do these predictions with us, or to revisit these predictions. He decided that going to dinner with his wife on his anniversary was more important. I don't really understand that, but so he's not here, so we can make fun of him with impunity.
Congratulations on the anniversary. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so who was your prediction, Nate?
I went with Jonathan India. I thought that even if he wasn't going to be the team stats leader, that he would sort of be the heart and soul of the team throughout the season, and that was going to propel this team to, something resembling a decent season.
I said I tried to joke and say Kyle Farmer, but ultimately I guess I went Joey Votto. Just coming off that great season last year, thought Joey Votto might do it. Nate, Bill Lack disagreed with both of us. He said it was Tyler Stevenson. So now I guess the question is, who is actually who? If we say this is the best, this has got to be best hitter. I think.
Yeah.
If we look at it that way, who was the best hitter? Who do you think wins that award? Any of our three?
So none of our three, and none of them were particularly close. I think it's pretty fair to say that Tyler Stevenson would have if he would have stayed healthy, but unfortunately, as we all know, he did not. I think it's Brandon Drury, and I'm going to say that he counts, even though he did not finish the season a Red. He was still fourth on the team in games played. But he had a slash line of 274, 335, 520. He's the only player that played over half the team's games with an OPS in the eights, 128 OPS plus if you like that. But he led all offensive players with a 2.3 wins above replacement. So I think
led the team with 20 home runs, 59 ribeye steaks, second on the team. To me, I think it's pretty clear. And you hate to give it a postseason award to someone that is not on the team anymore. But given that only three players, I believe, played more than 100 games anyway, I think you got to go with Brandon Drury. So best actor in a leading role. Now, it would have been Tyler Stevenson. Tyler Stevenson's numbers are compare very favorably and are somewhat similar, actually, to Brandon Drury's. But, of course, Drury had over twice as many plate appearances. So Brandon Drury, best actor in a lead role. What's the next category, Nate?
Next one up is best pitcher. But that is the way that hillbillies say it, because hillbillies say picture as pitcher. So it's the best picture award, but hillbillies saying best pitcher. I think we all know what that means. And we were all unanimous on this one. I was surprised when I went back and rewatched the episode. We were all really heavily leaning towards Tyler Mahle.
How is that? How did we not have another certain right-hander on our list?
Well, we all sort of expressed worries about Castillo getting injured. If you remember at that time, there were a lot of concerns, a lot of vagueness over him not starting the season and when he was going to be ready. So I think that our skepticism is fair, but we all were very, very happy to go with Tyler Mahle, and that's not who ended up getting it. Who do you think was the best pitcher this season?
Well, I think that you can. I think there's a couple of guys that you could give this to. I think I have to give it to, again, he's not a Red anymore, but Luis Castillo. 4-4, 2.86 ERA in 14 starts. If you look at Baseball Reference wins above replacement, which is not exactly your best stat to compare pitchers, but still, he had 3 wins above replacement as a Red, which led the team. 90 strikeouts, 85 innings. There's one other guy I think I could give it to. I'm interested to hear what you think, but to me, the best pitcher has again, Brandon Drury and Luis Castillo, Godspeed to both of you. You're no longer with us, but and good luck in the playoffs to both of you. But to me, that's who I give it to.
I think that is completely fair. Totally fine option. I went a different direction. Went with Alexis Diaz. He actually finished the season with 3.1 wins above replacement on Baseball Reference, which led the team, hitting or pitching. So he eked out over Castillo there. He had an absurd 2.43 ERA plus, and if you like the classic stats, 1.84 ERA and a .96 WHIP. We know how I feel about that. Castillo, I'm not going to argue with it. He was probably the most maybe he's more valuable. I don't know. But Alexis Diaz coming onto the scene with no expectations. Love to see it. Hope he's around for a while.
Yeah, that's the other guy I was referencing. He was the only other one that's in the conversation. And what an amazing season. Just an absolutely fabulous season. And I'm like you, I hope we see much more of that. All right, best supporting actor. The best player who wasn't the team MVP. Best player who was not named team MVP. Now, I said Tyler Mahle again. Bill said Nick Senzel. No comment. And Nate, you went with probably a reasonable choice, Joey Votto.
Best supporting actor in the booth as well.
That's true. So who is? If we say so, who are we saying is the team MVP? I guess Drury. Well, who? Go ahead.
Let's have this conversation real quick. I've heard it on some other podcasts, and we should probably do it too. I think there is an argument to be made for Kyle Farmer. I don't think that necessarily the MVP is always the best player on the team, but he played the most. They seem to love him in the clubhouse. He was one of the only constants on the team, for better or worse. I don't know. I like my MVPs to at least be good, but they also probably need to be on the team. Like, Kyle Farmer can be your captain if you want to have a captain. You don't need to be good to be the captain. But I need you to be valuable, not just a player. Take out the V. Kyle Farmer's the most player.
He's the MP of the season, yes. He's the most player. That's funny. If we're talking about it has to be someone that's on the team, I think to me it's clearly Alexis Diaz is the MVP. To me, if it's a player that has to be on the team right now. And yes, Kyle Farmer can be in that conversation, but we're talking about one win above replacement, a below average hitter. Certainly, I agree. Nate, you got to pick me up when I sneeze, man.
I clicked off the screen. I didn't know that. I'm going to go with. I'm going to throw something else out there. The guy you mentioned for the last word, Luis Castillo. He's not on the team, sure, but not only was he valuable while he was a Red this season, but he also provided value by no longer being a Red.
Ooh, yes, the haul that the Reds got.
Haul.
That's right. I mean, again, we laugh about that, but it's true. That's pretty. To the extent that we can still have optimism for the future, a lot of that's based on what we got for Luis Castillo in return. So maybe 5 years from now, maybe we'll say that's most valuable. I hope so. Gosh, please, I hope so. Let's say we're saying that it has to be someone on the team. Is your team MVP? I go Alexis Diaz. Who do you go?
I'm Diaz also.
Okay, so who's the second one? The best supporting actor, best player who wasn't team MVP.
For this one, I did not qualify having to finish the season as a Red because I went with Castillo on this one.
Okay, so you go with Castillo. Makes complete sense. Where I probably go, I think I go Tyler Stevenson. He was just so good when he played. He didn't play that much, but he was so good when he played. That's and I just want to talk about him. All right, what's the next category?
Next up, we have best comedy. This is the best comedic moment of the year, and it says in the instructions that the nominee can be a Nick Kroll press conference. I think any of us would have said that a Nick Kroll, mess up would have been the front runner for this going into the season, but we had a runaway winner.
We did,
and Joseph Daniel Votto just keeping Reds Nation and the nation at large in stitches, whether it be through social media or his time in the booth. Just 2 nights ago talking about Spencer Steer's nipples. It was just a start to finish, just beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, so you and I both. I said Votto's TikTok. You said his social media account. Bill's is an interesting one. I want to talk about just one moment. I think ultimately it probably is Votto in the booth was to me, but maybe just say Votto all the way around. Um, but yeah, best comedic moment might be Votto talking about nipples in the booth. That might be the single. Now, Bill's prediction was, quote, pick your Castellini. And I think there's a point to, a case to be made here. Maybe it's dark comedy, but how much entertainment did we get out of Phil Castellini vomiting all over himself on the field before the home opener? I mean, we've been laughing about that moment and what I want like to call his reaction to our billboard. But to me, that was it caused heartburn, but unintentionally funny in a lot of ways. And the corollary there is because we said Nick Kroll press conference. You notice we've not seen Phil Castellini or Nick Kroll hardly yet. Phil Castellini not at all, and Kroll you don't see him either all season long. Just very briefly and talking just his very few buddies in the local press corps that don't do any that won't criticize him. So
you're right. And in the spirit of this award, it was best comedic moment. So I think that has to take it. The moment itself, I don't know. I certainly didn't laugh too much when words fell out of his mouth like Spartacus quotes that we won't get into. But sound off in the comments if you recognize that reference. But the memes and the dialogue that happened as a result of his word vomit.
Oh man, it's just
worth it.
It's been glorious. I mean, the one that goes around all the time that I don't post as often as I should. It's fantastic. Somebody snapped a picture of him with that red jacket on in a convertible at the parade. And it's the perfect look on his face. I mean, it's just the perfect meme. And, get in, loser. We're cutting payroll. And it's fabulous. I've got more fun out of poking fun at Phil Castellini than I ever. So really, I owe him quite a bit. Thank you, Phil.
That's true.
By the way, I'll say it again. We've said it on social media, Phil. Open invitation. If you want to start rebuilding your relationship to fans, come on here. And I'm sure that we will be just as, polite. And we'll be polite, but I'm sure we'll treat you with the same kid gloves that all other media treat you with that you speak with, the local guys. I'm sure we won't ask any tough questions at all. Come on here and let's talk about the Reds.
It'll be great.
It'll be great. All right, Nate, what's the next category?
The next one was fun. So it's a best performance from a newcomer, obviously best rookie. We had a unanimous choice on this in the preseason as well. And we all went Nick Lodolo. We were all very, very high on him. And I think when you went back and listened to that, we all kind of were saying the same thing that we said throughout the season. We all think Hunter Green has the higher ceiling, but we thought Nick Lodolo would do better this season. Now that we are a day removed, I think that, actually the race got a lot closer than it probably looked like it would a month and a half ago. Some of those young arms really turned in fantastic performances down the stretch. But if you're going to go with him for MVP, I think you still have to go with Alexis Diaz here for best rookie.
Yeah, and Lodolo. I think if you look at the guys we've talked about on that predictions podcast, I think Lodolo was pretty much what we expected, and we only expected it because he's a little older, college guy. Mm-hmm. And I think he bore that out. A great season, 3.66 ERA. I think Hunter Green showed exactly what we were talking about, that high ceiling. Graham Ashcraft, who roughed up in his last start or two, and so maybe the numbers don't look quite as good, but just an outstanding season for Graham Ashcraft. But I didn't go back and listen to that one, the preseason predictions, but I guarantee you we didn't talk about Alexis Diaz, and
nope.
It's a runaway. Clearly, Alexis Diaz.
He didn't get mentioned once. I did have a little caveat here that if we want to go with best specific performance, Hunter Green's outing on June the 6th, 7 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts, 1 hit, no walks, was the highest single game score from any of the rookie pitchers this year. And it was just incredible.
Yeah, and this is something I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot over the winter and heading into next season, because, again, if you're looking for reasons to be optimistic, which we are desperately searching for those 4 guys, those 4 rookie pitchers, that's it. And that's why I say surround them with a veteran to help them, shepherd them through these next few years. But, and again, they already had that, but whatever. That's the single, right. That's the single most exciting thing about this year's season. All right, next category, best director. And this is described as the most impactful coach, manager, or front office employee. Most impactful coach, manager, or front office employee. I said Nick Kroll. Nate, you said Derek Johnson, and Bill, again, pick your Castellini. Who's the actual winner here?
So shout out to DJ and his work with those young arms. But as far as, for the heart of this segment, as far as what got the most Oscar buzz this season, it had to be Kroll's Hall, man. I mean, it had, the Reds were in everybody's mouth for, 2 or 3 days there. But the only time the team was relevant.
Yeah, right. No, I think, okay, I'm of two minds here. Best implies good, and Nick Kroll did some bad stuff we don't like, but a lot of that was clearly he was being forced to do some of those things. Although anyway, I'm going to do that. But he did have a good, I really want to say other things, but I can't deny he had a really good trade deadline. So if you're talking about best in that sense as something good, yes, but the description was most impactful. And again, the most impactful thing that happened this season was Phil Castellini. When his silver spoon was dangling from the corner of his mouth as he was saying, where are you going to go? Because in terms of impactful, if he doesn't do that, the attendance is still going to be down. It's not going to be down this much. I don't know. The truth is, I don't know if we lose 100 games if he doesn't do that, because it just seemed like that cast such a pall coming right after getting rid of everyone, the Winker and the Suarez trades. And so just everything started out so poorly. I don't know. Maybe they still do lose 100 games, but so most impactful still goes back to him. But I think you're right. I think the actual winner of this is Nick Kroll, and someone predicted that. So, it was me.
I like how you just switched it up there at the end, so you would have the right answer and not Bill. You hear that, Bill?
That's right. He could have been here. All right. What's next, Nate?
Next one's easy. Best cinematography, player with the best social media presence. Whenever I made my preseason prediction, I was still holding out hope that the Reds would sign Johnny Cueto. So I thought that there would be some competition here. But it turns out that you went for Joey Votto with some love for Jonathan India in there. I went with Joey. Bill didn't pick. I assume it's because Bill's not aware what social media is.
Oh, we love you, Bill.
But looking back on it after the season, I think the answer has got to be fairly obvious. Mr. Joseph Daniel, the GOAT himself, Votto.
Yeah, that's not even close. All right, next is the Lifetime Achievement Award, a.k.a. the Joey Votto Award, which we billed as just another chance to toss more love to Joey Votto. Who wins the Joey Votto Lifetime Achievement Award, Nate?
That's Joey until he not just retires, but leaves the game. If he retires and then becomes, play-by-play guy or color guy, still his award every year until he retires from that too.
Oh man, yeah, we're going to do a deep dive at some point this offseason into his broadcasting, because it's just glorious, absolutely glorious. So yes, Joey Votto wins the Joey Votto Award. Add it to your pile of awards. It's like an award.
This next one got a little depressing.
Something depressing about the 2022 Reds? No.
It was a question. It was actually the first viewer mail question in that episode. It's from Joe Farsing. He asked, "What era?" Just throw out some bold predictions for the 2022 season. Yours weren't too bad. You threw out there that Tyler Stevenson is the best offensive player on the team, and that Nick Lodolo will be the best starter on the team.
I would say you can make an argument that both those are true.
Happened, but you could make an argument for both of them.
Yeah.
Bill said he hopes that Nick Senzel plays 135 games. Didn't happen, but he did end up with second or third most games played on the team.
Whoa, right. But now, Nate, you've skipped over your own. What were your own bold predictions on that episode?
So moving on. You ready for some viewer mail?
No, I'd like you to respond to that question first. Yeah, I would like to do some viewer mail, but let's hear it. I don't remember what you said.
So Joe asked for bold predictions. You guys went a little flaccid. I went with the Reds winning the final wild card spot, top 10 MVP finishes from both Joey Votto and Jonathan India. Remember, bold predictions. And then I said Nick Senzel wins comeback player of the year.
Oh my! I can't decide which of those was worse.
It was not good.
Which one were you further off from? They're all like in a different galaxy.
Of the three, two of them you can blame on injuries. So I think the Reds winning a wild card and then ending up with 100 losses is pretty far.
Well, I blame that on injuries too. It's clearly because
true.
Connor Overton was hurt part of the year, is why the Reds didn't win the wild card.
Point.
All right, Nate, how about some viewer mail questions, shall we?
Let's get to it. The last edition of viewer mail for the regular season.
Oh my goodness, it's been a fun season with all of you. This
first
question
from my friend Joe. Off season, the viewer mail questions get weird. So
that's true. Actually, if you've not been around during an off season, first of all, where you been? Second of all, get ready because it's about to get weird around here. We're not going away. First comes from our buddy Joe Farsing. As we've told you, these viewer mail questions come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Joe says, can we give Phil, I presume he means Phil Castellini, a kick in the balls for every loss for charity, $100 per boot? Mo Egger, local television personality Mo Egger, suggested a dunking booth, but I feel my idea would bring a larger response. I don't think Phil could survive the number of people that would be wanting to give him a kick in the no okay place. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Whatever, I'll pony up $100. I'll be handing out $100 to just random passersby. But the Mo Egger comment, and then I'll let you answer the question. But I'm going to ask you a second question, which is, if they were serious, and they're not, but if they were serious about trying to repair this relationship with the fans, Phil literally would be in a dunking booth, and the proceeds would go to the Reds Community Fund, and they would make so much money. But I just don't have the sense that Daddy's boy, has the self-awareness or humor to laugh at himself that much. But it would be pretty good. I mean, if you're going to go to Reds Fest, which I'm not, which I hate because I've had so much fun at Reds Fest in the past, I'm not going to be there. But there's if you're watching on YouTube, there's a picture of Chad and Dusty Baker at Reds Fest one year, many years ago. So anyway, Nate, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily want to condone that kind of violence, or at least encourage it here at the Riverfront. But even if you can't argue that it's deserved, so I say we go a different direction with this, and we make him embarrass himself in the public eye. I'm thinking like local karaoke nights, stand-up comedy with no preparation. We could create a Tinder profile for him, and for every $100 donated, he has to watch 100 people swipe left and just reject him to his face over and over and over. I think that would be the most tormenting for Phil.
I'm interested to see when he next makes a public appearance, because he's been hidden since opening day. Like, he came out one time to make some comments to the season ticket holders, and that's it.
That was it.
Seen of him. So,
crazy.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't. They never flashed into the owner's box in a game, and I saw him on television. Of course, saddest story of my life. I haven't been to Great American Ballpark since 2019. I mean, obviously 2020 they weren't there, but I started the boycott 2021, and now 2 straight seasons. I miss the old ball yard. I really do, but
I don't like it. I feel like I've gotten looped into this too by by association. So sell the team, Bob, so I can come back to a game. Geez, doesn't my one ticket matter?
Please, I want to come back. Actually, that one ticket would have made a significant difference in the numbers this year. They were so low. All right, next question from Joey Gadiza. Joey asks, well, the Reds hit 100 in style, getting blown away to end the season. I ask, what now? What does the offseason agenda include, or what should it include? What must it include? The offseason agenda. Well, if we're talking about the offseason agenda for the Riverfront, it's going to be lots of frivolity and silliness, lots of nonsense.
That's right.
But that's sort of like the regular season too. If we're talking about the Reds, what's on the agenda for the Reds? I really, truly don't know. If I had to guess, I would say nothing. They just go into next season saying we're not going to spend any money. Hey, look, we have some shiny prospects. We're doing a rebuild, but we're doing it, right. I don't expect we're going to see much of anything. They'll make some major league signings that will not be noteworthy, is my prediction. They won't really start trying to improve the major league product until the following season, which is ludicrous. They're a professional sports franchise. They should be trying to win games on the major league level every year, but I've lost that argument with the Castellinis. What do you think, Nate?
You laid out in your article some stuff that makes sense. some kind of bridge the gap players. But I say they just decide to go super weird with it. Let's call it old timer games. Use every different weekend series or every home series as an old timers game. Give like 3-day contracts to Jay Bruce, Adam Dunn, Austin Kearns, Bronson, get a start or two in there. Aaron Harang maybe.
Brett Tomko.
Brett Tomko, come back. We can get Logan Ondrusik.
Please.
We can finally learn the answer to the age-old question: where's Quinones?
Yes.
Pitching for the Reds in May. Let's go.
I don't know what they can do. Honestly,
Also, I don't know what the point is of doing much of anything for next year. If you can get some guys that, the example you used in your article was Michael Porta, like free agent that's coming off some weird injuries that might want like a 3 or 4 year deal at a little bit of a discount just to get that guaranteed money. Something like that could really make sense. But other than that, why would they spend money on the 2023 roster?
Do you want to know why? Because the job of a professional sports franchise is to win games and make their fans happy.
Oh, I always forget that. And if I can forget that, it must be easy for them to forget that.
Yeah, no doubt. My hope is this, and I don't have any faith that this is going to be the case. My hope, though, is maybe this is my hope. I don't know. I'm not sure what I hope anymore. But my hope is that the lack of attendance this year. This might be a fear, actually. See, I'm having one of my patented unpredictable changes of thought right in front of your eyes here. What if the Castellinis get freaked out over the way everything went off the edge this year, and that crazy number, that lowest attendance in the history of American ballpark, and 100 losses, and reverse course? Because they've done it before. They've done it every other time they've tried a plan. They reverse course before they actually execute the plan. Now, I don't think they will. I think it's more likely to be what you say. But what if they did that? I mean, okay, I'd be okay with it, I guess, if you're going to actually try to compete. But I don't care about the Chattanooga Lookouts. I don't care about the Dayton Dragons. I don't care that they've got big prospects down there. I only care about what those prospects mean for the big league club. Now, some of these guys are going to be good. They're not all going to be good. And so I'm not going to get excited about any of them until they actually get up there, except for Elliot De La Cruz. I will always be excited about him. So the answer is I don't know. It's either going to be the quietest winter we've ever seen or just kind of a wacky winter. And I genuinely don't know which it's going to be. Yeah. Seth Shaner says this: let's face it, yesterday, the final game of the season, was a microcosm of the entire season. But Tuesday night, the night before, when Hunter Green had an outstanding start and the Reds actually looked good, was a look at what could be possible. The Reds become viable again. How likely would you say each player who played a part in that win will be around for a significant role next year? And the players he names, and we'll just take them one at a time. Spencer Steer. I think Spencer Steer is going to be around for a significant role next year. Do you agree, Nate?
Yes. How significant the role will be based on the quality of the club is a different conversation. But are they going to get a lot of playing time? Are they going to be around for most of the season? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Steer, it's going to be okay. Chucky Robinson, no.
Probably.
He may be around. Chucky Robinson is never going to play a significant role in the music team.
Chucky Robinson wandered back into the cornfields at the end of the Field of Dreams game. Because he sounds like he's from.
Right. Alexis Diaz, Alexis Diaz is your closer next year. Jake Fraley he's quite Fraley-esque. That's about all I can say about him. He's going to be a decent platoon guy. He'll be around. I hope the Reds can find someone to play the other half of the platoon with him. What do you think about those Alexis Diaz, Jake Fraley? Obviously, I think they're going to play a role. I don't know how good Fraley's going to be, but he's going to have he's probably starting on opening day, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on Fraley than you are. I like guys that are to the good side of the platoon. And if he can just become a decent hitter on the other side, then he's still pretty young. He's got some power, he's got some speed, plays good defense. I guess I'm just a little bit higher. Alexis Diaz for sure. If he is not a prominent part of this club, then next year is going to be worse than we already expect it to be.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm not down on Fraley. I just think he's limited, but he's
sure.
What he can do fairly well, and I like having guys like him around.
The next one's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Luis Cessa. I mean, Luis Cessa might be your number 4 starter next season.
or number 1 starter. See, the truth is, Cessa started 10 games and he did not look awful.
No, I mean,
as he go ahead,
if you were at all optimistic going into this season about Vladimir Gutierrez, why not feel that way about Luis Cessa?
And Cessa is arbitration eligible, so he probably will be back unless the Reds not tender him. I think he's in your starting rotation. We said that this time last year. I think Luis Cessa is in the opening day starting rotation next year.
Yeah, and good for you, Luis. I'm glad that wasn't a disaster.
No, happy for him. He enjoyed starting clearly and was somewhat effective. Good for him. What about the next name on this list that Seth asks us about? Jose Barrero.
Jose Barrero, man, I've still got one of the last houses on Barrero Island. I'm holding my real estate. I think he's going to be good. I'm calling. He's going to be good. He's going to be fine. He's going to figure it out.
I hope so. I have, after watching him this season, he got a real shot here, second half, a legitimate shot, and he just did little with it. I think he probably does get a shot again, and I think he's your shortstop on opening day. I think Kyle Farmer's your third baseman, and that's the next guy on the list. Kyle Farmer, to the extent that Kyle Farmer's still around, will be at third base. Well, although I don't know, we still have that Moustakas guy, but I think Barrero gets another shot next year just because there's no one really ready right now to take that position over. We've got the McLeans. Matt McLean's we'll talk about in a moment. We've got the Elliot De La Cruzes and the Welby Martes. Maybe Barrero can play well enough to kind of bridge that gap, or maybe he can be the guy we thought Barrero was going to be. I don't know, but I don't see. I'm not that optimistic, but I don't see any reason not to. I mean, he's sort of the default for shortstop, I think. Is that fair?
Well, the reason that I'm holding out that optimism actually kind of has a little to do with the second part of Seth Chandler's question. He goes, as an aside, I didn't realize how large Barrero is and or how slight Steer is, or both. During the celebration, the difference was stark. If you just watch Jose Barrero running around out there, if you remove the times when he's in the batter's box, he looks like one of the most impressive athletes that you've ever seen. He's big, he's strong, he's quick, he's graceful. Everything seems to be there except his ability to hit major league pitching.
Which is smart, doesn't he?
Gosh, he does. Man, he passes the eye test in ways that very few professional baseball players do. You just look at the guy and you're like, oh yeah, you were created in a lab to play the sport.
He's just 24, but and his defense is pretty good. I mean, his defense, he had a couple of sort of high profile issues there, but overall, 24-year-old shortstop, good defense. His hitting was just even worse than I would have expected. I thought it would be bad if he was just, he just kept getting worse. And so I don't know what the answer to that. Maybe he's never going to be that guy. But defensively, I think you're in good hands with Barrero at shortstop. Yeah. And so I don't have a problem with it defensively. And since there's no one else to take it from it, then why not just see if he's going to? I mean, your other option is to give it to Kyle Farmer. I mean,
you hush.
I know. I'm not saying Kyle Farmer can play elsewhere, but so anyway, that's a good question. Now I got to tell you what, we've gone long here. I can't believe this. 100 losses just got us all amped up. So let's try to rapid fire through these last few questions if we can. Is that all right?
We're not going to go 100 minutes for 100 losses. Come on.
We should go 102 minutes so that James Urban has to get a tattoo. David Hurst. With the Castellinis alienating the fans and the team they put together, is there any expectation they'll do anything but decrease payroll further for 2023? And is 102 a reachable goal? And we've kind of hinted on this, but I don't know if they'll decrease payroll any further because there's nowhere to decrease it. They have two, unless they can find someone to take Mike Moustakas off their hands, or if Joey Votto retires, because those are the only two guys that are actually under contract. You take their contracts for around $43 million total, I think. And then plus, if you look at what they're going to have to pay for the arbitration eligible guys, what you presume they'll get right now, their payroll is going to be about $70 million. If it's just our guys and then minimum for the other one. So even to get to a major league average payroll, they could spend $40 million, $50 million. And you could make that's why I say you could spend some money and still make, an impact here. I don't think they'll cut further because I don't think they're going to be able to cut for it. I don't see where they can cut further. So no, I don't think they'll decrease. But I'm not optimistic about them raising it. But are they going to lose 102 games? No, I don't see it. But then again, this current roster is a 110 loss team. Because if you think about it,
watch 2023. We're starting early this year. Listeners, viewers, figure out what tattoo you want Chad to get, because he didn't say in that little clip he played earlier that this was for 2021 only. He did not specify.
I'll say it now. If they lose 102 games next year, I'll get a tattoo. I'll do it. We'll get some goofy tattoo that y'all pick. So anyway, what do you think, Nate? I said quick, and then I went on a little bit of a ramble.
Nobody's going to take Malibu Mike's salary, so it's not going to go lower.
Yeah. Jerry Saduff, since 2023 is a wash, would it benefit the Reds to sign Johnny Cueto to a one-year contract if it's competently this year? Could provide leadership to the staff. More importantly, could be a way to attempt to start rebuilding faith with the fans by bringing back an old favorite. Is this a perfectly cromulent idea? Asks Jerry. And it is the most cromulent idea we've ever had. We've talked earlier about signing a veteran to shepherd these young pitchers through. And I don't care what position he played. Bringing back a future Reds Hall of Famer like Johnny Cueto, I'm always going to be on board. I don't care if it's, he should have retired 6 years ago. Bring him back. They're not going to win next year anyway. Bring him back. Bring all the old Reds back. Even the Jay Bruces, like you said earlier.
I've been harping on this all season. They should have got him in the offseason and didn't. And he's done better than pitch competently. He's been outstanding this year. Bring him back.
Yeah, exactly. Please bring him back. All right, next question references something that we discussed just a moment ago. This comes from Carl J. Mitz. On the subject of the young guys, Matt McClain, this is the former Reds #1 draft pick out of the University of California at Los Angeles. Matt McClain has shown that he has the ability to hit for power and steal bases without completely killing his averages past year in the minors. Any chance he becomes the Jonathan India of spring training 2023? I could see him as the shortstop stepping stone between the Farmer era and the Ellie De La Cruz, Noelvi Marte era. And I see Ellie and Noelvi's ETA as later than McClain's. I agree. McClain's a college guy. He will be 23 next season. So, and presumably will probably going to start in AAA next year. Not that he had an incredible season at AA, but not bad at Chattanooga. Again, he's 2 years younger than the average age in that league. And, 363 on base, 453 slugging, so 816 OPS. He had 17 homers, 21 doubles. Overall, a really pretty good season. And so this goes back to what we were just saying about Barrero. And I started to mention it, but I knew we had this question coming up. Could he be the Jonathan India? I don't see it. I don't see the Reds handing him the shortstop job out of spring training. But what if he goes to Louisville and is crushing the ball and playing good defense at Louisville for the first 6 weeks of the season, and Barrero is Barrero? Why not? Any thoughts on Matt McClain?
Yeah, I think him referencing McClain possibly being the next Jonathan India, I think the parallels there are really strong, especially because I think he's more likely to play second base than shortstop long term. But, he's had an OPS over 800 each of the last 2 seasons, and that's something that Jonathan India only did once, and that was in rookie ball. So I don't dislike that at all.
Yeah, again, the question is going to be defensively, can he handle it? I don't know. I don't know where he'll end up. I like you. I'm not sure he's going to be this group of young shorts. I'm not sure he's the one to end up at shortstop, but yeah, it's one to watch. I can't see the Reds handing shortstop to him out of spring training if we're talking about Jonathan India, because that's what the Reds did with Jonathan India. He won the second base job. But I don't know. It's one of the things to watch. James Urban says, bummer that Tattoo Watch 2022 came up just short. Anyway, my question this week's out of genuine curiosity. Does anyone know how much of an impact fans not showing up to games has on the owners? Like, is it enough to actually make a significant difference to revenue, or is this not doing much at all? I was proud and a little sad to see the lowest attendance in Gap history, but I wonder if it makes any difference in the end. If you have anything you want to say, I'll let you do it quickly. I'll say it does have more of an impact in Cincinnati than in some other places. Game day revenue is more of the picture in Cincinnati than in, say, New York or Los Angeles, but it doesn't make that much of a dent. Frankly, they still made money this year. The TV revenue still up there. it moves the needle in terms of the PR in some ways and embarrassing the owners, and a little bit on the bottom line, but not enough to, I think, make much of a difference to cause them to sway from their path.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything specifically team by team, but one study that I was reading said that in MLB, most teams only generate around 10% of their revenue from in-person related items, tickets, merchandise, concessions, etc. It's all just media rights and licensing. So, I mean, 10% of a lot of money is a lot of money, but not enough to make them, genuinely entertain the idea of selling the team or wholesale organizational philosophy changes.
Or maybe it is because they've made wholesale changes in their philosophy on the drop of a hat many times in the past. So who knows? But yeah, I think you're right. Now we have 3 questions left, Nate. 2 come from our friend Brian Bowdy. What I'm gonna say though is 2 of these are gonna take a while to answer, and I'm gonna say try to help me remember. We'll kick these over to next week. Calvin Medcalf's question and Brian's second question, because we really need some time to unpack those because they're really good questions. So we'll go with the last question today. Brian Bowdy's. The promotions department needs to breathe some new life into giveaways for next season, as bobbleheads aren't cutting it anymore. I say they start the year with a Crawl Hall doll. I love it, as the first giveaway of the season. Phil Castellini, where are you going to go? Tropical vacation giveaway for one lucky fan at another game. What other promos should they do for 2023? I don't know that I can come up with any 2 better than those. A Crawl Hall doll and then a tropical vacation. Where are you going to go giveaway? I love it, Brian. Fantastic.
Yeah, those are great ideas. They could buy up a couple thousand of the Riverfronts Wears Quinonia's t-shirts, which can be found at our shop at www.riverfrontcincy.com. Other than that, I don't know. I love the where you're going to go vacation. And I will absolutely help you remember that we need to answer those 2 questions. I say we call it now and just do a viewer mail only podcast next week.
Oh, I like it.
And we can get into a bunch of these because I spent too much time getting into Calvin's question for us to just let this go ignored. So stay tuned for next week. I enjoyed that.
We need to answer it. It's a good question. So let's do that. We'll do all viewer mail next week because presumably there's not going to be a whole lot of news to discuss anyway. But we're not done talking. We're going to be here every week, all off season long. Well, maybe every week. We may take a short break here at the Riverfront like we traditionally do in November. We'll see. I don't know. We're having so much fun that we may not. If you're looking for something else to listen to these days, I gotta commend Nate here and our buddy Joe Farsing on the Riverfront Bengals show, which now in their own podcast feed. Go look for it. This week was a lot of fun because the Bengals looking good, 2 wins in a row, and you guys had a lot of fun with it. So I encourage you all to go find that and listen to it. That'll wrap it up here at the Riverfront today. Nate, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm glad that all of y'all shared this season with me. If I had to do this on my own, I would have found myself at the bottom of a wine bottle more often than not. So it's easier with awesome people like y'all. And, we'll be here all off season and we'll do it again next year. It was fun somehow.
It actually was. And that was my final thought was going to be as well. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us this season. I mean, obviously thanks to our Patreon family, because hanging out in that Slack channel and laughing and goofing around and getting to know each of you personally a little bit, and having fun with the tattoo watch and just all the nonsense that we did in there was fun. But everyone that listens here, because I'm getting feedback on Twitter all the time from listeners to the show, and it's something that we say all the time, which is misery loves company. I hope that we did well by you this year. I hope we figured out a way to have fun during this incredibly rough season, because we all love this team and we're just trying to have fun, and sometimes they're highs and sometimes they're lows, and go back and listen to me at the trade deadline and I was pissed off, and then listen to me after the Field of Dreams game and I was like, oh, dreamy about the Reds in baseball. Peaks and valleys, some people call them. We have them here too. But I hope we did right by you. I hope we figured out a way to have some fun, and thanks to all of you for listening. I do want to ask you to remember, please subscribe to the show either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Riverfront Cincy on all those platforms. And, I don't know, I guess just a big thank you to all of you. And you are invited to come join our hijinks at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. But if you don't, you know what? We're going to be here every week. It's going to be free to the masses, and because it's just so much fun. Nate, fun season, man. Somehow.
Another one in the books.
Oh, another one in the books for Nate Dotson and Taylor Motter, who is actually a player that played for the Cincinnati Reds this season. This is Chad Dotson saying, "So long, everyone."